Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Julie and I'm coming to you from just north of Glasgow in the UK. My channel is about textile things I make, sewing, knitting, sometimes patchwork, sometimes crochet. Thank you for joining me. You're very welcome. And I would like to say thank you for the comments on what I called palette cleansing projects. And people were talking about little things like hat making or having a continuous project on the go that you could turn to. Somebody mentioned Manx quilting, which is very interesting. So thank you for all those comments. And I'm really going to try and have a little project as a go-to when I'm between things that I think, oh, I really want to make this. So today's episode, I'm going to try and show the rest of my quilts, which are here. Plus, I'm going to talk about what I'm wearing. And I do have a coffee here, so excuse me while I have a sip of my coffee every so often. Today, it's a bit rainy and I think the Scottish name would be dreich, and cloudy and grey. So as I said last time I showed my quilts, a nice day to show something cheery. So first of all, what am I wearing? This top, which is I put a photo up here of the pattern because I'm filming a bit further away today. This is a new look top, which I made this perhaps 4-5 years ago. I forgot to look it up. Perhaps I'll try and add it here. And it's a really lightweight cotton, which I bought from Abercorn. It's gathered at the neck, and the back does have ties rather than any buttons or zips or anything. So it's a pullover top and you do the ties up at the back. It's puffy sleeves and there are buttons at the end, which I don't know what that would be called. It's not is it a godet? No, it's not a godet. It's just a little cuff bit. And it's a very lightweight cotton. I'll try and show the ties at the back. The trousers are from a Vogue pattern. Again, I put the pattern up here and some longer photos of me wearing the outfit. And these are, I suppose, like a vintage look pattern. Again, I've made 4 or 5 pairs of these in light cotton fabric. And at the moment, these brown ones are the only ones that are fitting. I don't know if the others have shrunk, I've grown, but I really want to get back into the others. The navy, grey, a blue pair. So this is a go-to pattern for me. I wanted something that wasn't too baggy. It has pockets, a side zip, and some darts in the front, and it's quite a tapered leg. I've tucked half in, half out, because I'm more of a tucked in type of person, but I wanted to show the top is quite a long line top as well. So that's what I'm wearing, and it's a very nice top. The fabric bought at Abercorn in Rill. I did look yesterday. There is an Abercorn in Manchester as well. One of our sons lives in Stockport, so I may get to the Abercorn in Manchester at some point. And what else do I need to say? The cotton for the trousers was also bought at Abercorn. I'm going to put in a photo as well of the shoes I'm wearing, which are Skechers, which are new to me. I bought these on a recent trip down to Cardiff in South Wales to see my best pals, and we spent an overnight in Cardiff. Had a lovely time, and they all wear Skechers, and I'd never had a pair, and at the time I had something wrong with my foot, so I did invest in 2 pairs of Skechers, and I'm really pleased with them. They are so comfy. So that's what I'm wearing. The quilts, I am going to try and show them on the bed, which may mean a bit of stopping and starting. So we'll see how I get on with that. But before we do that, this is a book that I've used a lot for quilting. A really straightforward guide, has blocks, how to do. So this was one of the first, not the first, but one of the first quilting books I bought, a Dorling Kindersley. I'm not sure if I bought it in Aldi. I can't remember, but I've had it, perhaps 8 years. And I've really used this, and it's a nice, straightforward how to do book on lots of aspects of quilting. Again, perhaps I'll put a photo up here of the book a bit closer. And just a quick review of the quilts. So this one I made when we were living in North Wales. This one when we were living in North Wales. And these 2 I made when we moved here to this house in Scotland. And we've been here a year and a half now. So 2 made here, 2 made when we were living in a beautiful valley up in North Wales. And you can see my sort of colour palette tends to be pretty pinks, greens, that type of vibe is what I like. So I'm going to switch off here and then put one of the quilts on the bed and talk about that. Probably they'll be in the order that I made them. So I'm going to say bye for now and then put some quilts on the bed. This is one of the first larger quilts I made, and I had this quilt over a sofa in our lounge in North Wales. I had the pattern out of a magazine, and I ordered the fabric from Doughty's in Herefordshire. And you can see there's a border of the green with, you could just about make out a zigzag quilting, all quilted on my just domestic machine, plus this pink border. I bought this at Abercarn, I bought this at Abercarn, and I bought these at, well, Doughty's online. I wanted to make a pink and green themed quilt. Just up in the corner there you can see my quilting ruler, which I've brought up to show, I think they're about a 10-inch square. The binding is it's not joined to this fabric, but it is the same fabric as the backing. It's a traditional type of binding, sewn this side and then sewn by hand this side. I'm going to turn off again here and show the backing fabric and the label. So here's the back of the pink quilt. It's a lovely weight of quilting cotton, and you can just about make out the diagonal quilting on the surround and the square quilting, stitch in the ditch around the blocks. It's a really nice weight cotton fabric that I bought at Abercarn Rill, possibly by the weight, can't remember. The label is Tones of Pink and Green, Julie Sweet, October 2020, so coming up to 5 years ago. We lived in a beautiful valley, Roman Bridge. I've called it a throw with offset squares. So I think that label's worked pretty well. I'm not sure how many others I've done recently I've actually done a label for. There's the binding, hand sewn on the back, and it's probably polyester lightweight wadding. I wasn't very good at doing the corners, mitered corners then. I think I've got a bit better since. That's like really not very good, but hey ho, it's finished. This quilt has been washed and used many times. So that's the first one. It's a throw for a sofa rather than a bed quilt. Quilt number 1 of my 4. So here we have quilt number 2, which, to be honest, I had forgotten about. This was on the bed in the downstairs bedroom at the moment, and this was the first full bed quilt I made. It's a double size. The star pattern is a go-to for me. I like the effect. It's, I suppose, a beigey brown, and the quilting pattern is just wavy lines all the way up. Oh, there's a little spider. Wavy lines all the way up from top to bottom, and it has sashing and the plain white squares on the sashing. Just have my ruler here. So again, well, these are 12-inch squares. This was made in North Wales, so I'm showing 5 quilts today, and this was a North Wales quilt, which I really was pleased with. It's quite a toned down colour for me, but the bedroom it was in was, I think, a grey brown Laura Ashley wallpaper, which I really liked, a cutie cottage bedroom. So this suited that bedroom. So I'm going to turn off here and turn the quilt over and show the back. So this is the back, plain white, must be extra large quilt fabric, can't remember, and white binding, again sewn on the machine at the front and then hand stitched at the back, turned over and hand stitched at the back. The label is quite an original. The middle bedroom, February 2021, single star, double 4 patch. Some people call it Indian star. So I've put the names that the books I used called the block, and it's probably polyester wadding. It's been washed. It's probably due a wash again. So that's the second big one I made. So that's the first big one I made. On to the next. Third quilt, third larger quilt, second full bed quilt that I made. I think this is called Basket of Scraps, which I liked. I like the flowered fabric I bought at Abercorn. The spotty, possibly, doubt he's online. And you can just make out the quilting pattern with going around with the free motion embroidery foot on and going round each square to make a flower pattern, and sort of random, more elongated in the bigger squares. Not perfect, but I think it's quite a nice effect. Again, sashing, and these are probably 12-inch or perhaps larger squares. Let's put the quilting ruler on. 12-inch squares. So quite a nice pattern basket of scraps. And this was again made in North Wales for a spare room, and I was pleased with it and glad I made it. I will turn it over to show the back. So here's the back, made up of 4 large squares and possibly be able to see the quilting on the back, on my machine, all machine quilted. I suppose it probably took me quite a while, but I think this was during lockdown. Again, I was retired, so my time is my own. Little bits of thread there. Very much a used quilt on our spare bed when we get visitors. I like the feel of a quilt on your bed. I think this is probably a polyester wadding. And the label on here, I'll grab up here. The label, spring is just around the corner. March 2021, Roman Bridge, and the pattern, the block, is Basket of Scraps. And here is the binding, green binding, slightly better mitered corner, not great. Machine stitched here and hand stitched at the back. It is a nice feeling when you get to the binding. Quilt number 3. Quilt number 4, the penultimate I'm showing today. Made this here up in Scotland. It's a king size quilt. The squares are 3-inch squares, I think. I have my quilting ruler on there, and obviously made up of scraps of lots of different bits. I think I cut out some of these 3-inch squares, or they would have been 3.5 before the seams, as I was finishing projects, so I had a stack of them ready, and then I cut out the rest in order to make this quilt. So we have some blouse fabric. I think this is Liberty, which I made a blouse and I undid the blouse. some, I suppose, vintage cotton. Had that as pyjamas left over from a previous quilt. That came in a pack of, possibly Laura Ashley, or the same as this, from years and years ago. We are talking perhaps 25, 30 years ago. I had a pack of squares from a shop where we're living in Derbyshire, pre-cut, but they did need cutting a bit better shape, but really old. Nice fabric, probably Liberty. Bought that Abercorn online, bought that to make a quilt for our granddaughter, Blouse. So I probably could say where all these came from, or where they ended up, or what patterns they went into. This came from my late mother's house. A lovely dress I liked. So that's a king size, and this is used in this bedroom in the winter, or those rare hot days in the summer when you just need a quilt rather than a quilt and a duvet. I think the wadding is a cotton wadding rather than a polyester, so it's got a nice heavy weight to it. I'll show the back now. So here's the back. And I have shown this quilt fairly recently because I made it this beginning of this year, I think. I haven't done a label yet, unfortunately. But I remember saying that this fabric came from my late mother's stash. So it's a very old fabric, possibly 70s. I know it was there a long time, and there was a large amount of it. And I was a bit reluctant, do I use it? But, it just would have been hanging around otherwise. You could almost say it's a reversible quilt if you wanted a nice bright blue quilt. The binding is made from the green, and just the different lengths of green. So I just sewed them together. Can't really see here, but there's different lengths of the green binding, and the mitered corners are getting better. The green isn't that vivid. I have a vivid filter on at the moment because it's so dark, but this green is more of a sagey green. Not sure how to turn the filter off while I'm filming, but it definitely isn't that colour. It's more of a sage green. The blue is quite vivid, but that has been distorted by the filter. So that's the penultimate quilt. On to the last one. So the last large quilt. This is a king size quilt made fairly recently here in Scotland, using up bits of fabric. None of this fabric was bought for this quilt. It's come from my stash. This quilt was cut out, I would say, over a year and a half ago, prior to us moving to this house, but it was kept in a box and I didn't do much with it. Hence, this was a finishing off of a work in progress. Again, a star block, which I tend to favour. I think I struggled with the tension on my machine here. So the quilting isn't fab. And I would say the blocks probably aren't perfect, but it's finished. One of my favourite dresses, which doesn't quite zip up at the moment. Excess from the pink and green quilt. Bought at a car boot sale. I think it's Laura Ashley. And what else do we have? Bought for the pink quilt. Can't even remember where that came from. The backing of the pink quilt. And this was bought at Abercorn. This would have been bought at Abercorn. And as I said, I cut this out a while ago and got around to actually sewing it up this year. This is intended for a downstairs spare room when we get that decorated. I think it's a polyester wadding. I'll show the back. This is the reverse of the quilt. I think this was from a charity shop. I think it's probably a poly cotton, but it seems to work. You could probably use this as a reversible quilt. Quite a nice, pretty pattern. And it is just the centre that is the pink. I've done white around the border as I didn't have enough of the pink. So if you notice, there is white all the way around, and the binding came from eBay. It's a heavier weight. I don't think it's a quilting weight cotton. And how are the mitered corners looking? Getting better. So that's the last quilt for now. I did make 2 others which I've given away, so that's 7 large quilts in total. Hello, thank you so much for watching my quilt tour. And how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I thought there were 4. I'd forgotten one that was on a bed. So that's it for today. Hopefully back to a normal what I've made video next week. But I thought it'd be nice to show the larger quilts I made. As I said, there are 2 others which I've given away. So that's 7 large quilts in total since, I suppose, 2000 when I started making large quilts. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to say bye for now. Look after yourselves. See you hopefully next week. Happy stitching. Bye.